guys, hey, we're back with Amy, and today we're going to talk about the property standards for FHA loans.
So for an example, if you're going to sell your house and you're going to list the FHA as a consideration, just make sure that the top standards are covered, which is if there's any peeling paint and your house was built prior to 1976, you're going to want to scrape and paint those chipping paint on the outside of your house. Not only your house, but your garage. They even call for sheds.
Well, yeah, well, that's because a lot of the times before then, if there's chipping paint, it could be lead-based paint, and lead-based paint will deteriorate and you'll have lead in your dirt. It's a safety hazard, yeah. So. And
it's not good for children because they might ingest it. The other property standard that we find is very common is a handrail at 3 steps or more.
Yep.
So simply, if you have 2 steps, but there's a 3rd step to get down to the main level, just put a handrail up real quick. That way you don't have any issues. Drip leg on a water heater is a safety issue, so the pressure valve needs to be installed. And really,
those are very expensive. No, very inexpensive to install. It's just PVC, so it's super easy.
Right. So, the roof has to have 2 years of life left on it. All the mechanics have to be in working order, things like that. There has to be a GF plug, GFI plug in the
6 feet
kitchen.
of any water source. So that's the bathroom, any type of water source within 6 feet, there has to be GFI. But again, that's pretty easy stuff.
Right. Well and septic have to be 50 feet apart, and the well and leach have to be 100 feet. There are some exceptions to that rule. We typically don't require a well and septic inspection. The appraiser will make a comment if it passes HUD regulations.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so typically I do recommend those inspections for your protection.
I mean, if you're buying a house, it's really smart to make sure you know what you're buying.
Right.
So,
and also a whole house inspection.
Yeah, a whole house inspection. Whole house, well, septic, if it's there, termites. You got to make sure you know what you're buying. And also, this also helps because you can do these inspections prior to the appraisal and then find out what needs done, what do you need to negotiate, because pretty much everything's negotiable in these contracts. Have yourself an inspection, find out, there's chipping paint along the windowsill that maybe you didn't catch. Maybe there's a GFI outlet that needs installed prior to the appraisal. That way you don't have to have another appraisal.
Well, a re-inspection fee, which costs, $125 to $150 depending on the lender. So we're just trying to keep you from having to pay those extra fees. So knowing your property standards, and when I do a pre-approval, I give a list to my buyers and to their selling agent just to kind of have something. Well, just a checklist of when they're going through properties, they can kind of take a look for themselves because sometimes, not everyone knows every property standard.
Right.
Only the appraiser. So sometimes you just really have to make sure you're watching for these top, conditions to make sure the house passes.
Well, like we talked in yesterday's video, this is how you know that you're buying the right house. It's meeting those standards. So
and if I again was a seller, I would want my buyer to have them meet those standards that way.
What do you say? Be able to sleep at night.
Yes.
So guys, there you have it. All right. So we'll see you tomorrow.